I never want it to be above. I want it to be with one of the guys. You know what I mean? Just be happy, do what you need to do, and not have to be accountable because of the name and all of this. And I think because of our bringing up was always like, behave, behave. That's all we say, behave, behave. You know, and I know what they were meaning. And smile now, you know. And I was tomboy, so anyway. That's part of the early years that I didn't bring up with, what's her name? Cataluna was the early years. But the reason why I'm saying this to you is to bring attention to the early years of annexation and some of the effects that it took for individuals here. And we've never talked about it or anything, you know, in a negative sense to finding out. You know, I don't know. I've never said to, well, what do you think? You know, we've never gotten into situations like that. I think we were motivated in what we were responsible for in our lives. And I guess that's why I was naughty and rebellious, you know, and feeling suppression of having to live up to a name that he created, you know, Duke created, you know. But Uncle Paula was like, I mean, married at 50 years old, his first marriage, you know. He was a very simple man, still ate corned beef and poi and salmon and poi, you know, out of the cans. And every time I think about it, when I came back from Waikiki this weekend, I thought about it. And the reason he was always on that water was to get away, but the love of that water, that ocean, you know. Because he'd always say, oh, when he had that brain surgery and all that stuff, and I was sitting by he said, everybody used to come to Daddy's house because Daddy was the singer and the whole thing, and we used to have good fun, and they would be imitating. Uncle Bill would put on Wahine clothes and do the hula and, you know, all this kinds of stuff. Just buckaloosh, you know. And I remember sitting at his feet, and he said to me, I just need to get in the water. Then he would feel better, you know. And as I've been growing older, I keep reflecting back to the effects of his life or the effects of some of our lives because of the time in those particular years in time, you know. And then in comparison to see what's happening now for young people, it's harder for them. It's very difficult sometimes to talk about him, was because, you know, when you relate it to someone and have an uncle like that, of course we respected him, you know. And I remember he was the sheriff at the city hall, and Leon's grandfather, Leon Sterling, he was the city clerk at the city hall. And he was Kalohi. I mean, those guys were all Kalohi. Even Leon's father Wayne was Kalohi. But anyway, two of my cousins were working there during the summer, you know, during the classes and everything. So anyway, they told me, Joanne, why don't you come up? Maybe Uncle Leon can get you a job, you know, for the summer. You know what I mean? And I was young. So I go in there, and I'm afraid of him, you know. Any elder I was always afraid of, you know. And I went in there, and he was flipping through some pages, you know, and I was scared. He didn't say hello or anything, and he goes, well, what are you doing here? That already wanted me to. And I said, oh, I put my head in, and I said, oh, I came here to ask if I could get a job. And he said, why don't you swim? I stood up, I walked out. Why don't you swim? Because that's all they ever knew that I did was surfing and swimming and kalohiness and all this. Why don't you swim? I went, that's it, I'm out of here. But they were very, very strong. They were an example, like even Nainoa's father. You know, he might have gone through his 50 years, and after that, he, you know, I mean, his father was very, very, they were all, their parents were always strict with them, and he became, you know, I mean, automatically,